Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Bar Greer with a second episode of Debunking Film Analysts. For this episode, yet another movie that some YouTubers have read too much into is AI Artificial Intelligence, the Spielberg-Kubrick collaboration project about a robot child who is rejected by his owners and ends up having his human mother figure cloned from DNA so that he can have a fabulous day with her at the end of the movie. Like all movies, there is no meaning to be found in AI artificial intelligence, and to prove it, here's 23 details that could be interpreted as having meaning if you're insane enough to do so, but which actually don't mean a damn thing. Number 1. You know what, I can't be asked with trying to do American accents. I'm not very good at it, so I'll just use my normal accent. Number 1. This out-of-focus view of David is not a foreshadow of the advanced skinny mecha robots that we see in shiny ice caverns at the end of the movie. No way. Number 2. Flesh fair sequence in which robots are tortured, mutilated and killed. This scene is not a metaphor of history repeating itself in terms of the Roman Empire with its Colosseum entertainment where prisoners would fight to their death against each other and against animals for the entertainment of spectators. That interpretation is ridiculous, even though Kubrick developed the concept of this movie and Roman Colosseum fighting was a subject that he'd already explored when he directed the movie Spartacus. No relation whatsoever. Number 3. You see this person's foot with a large heel? That doesn't mean a damn thing. It's got no relevance to the story. No, really, I mean it. Maybe there might be some sort of foot fetish thing on the part of somebody involved in the production, but that's about it. Number 4, when Monica programs David to love her, part of the procedure involves placing her fingers on the back of his neck. And later, the Gigolo Joe sex robot, he touches his fingers to the back of a customer's neck as he seduces her. These two instances of neck touching involving different types of love programming are not conceptually related. Likewise, David clasping both his hands around the back of Monica's neck as he begs not to be abandoned does not represent him manipulating her with programmed fake tears. Instances of neck touching in this movie are not related to each other. Number 5, the explosion of holographic cosmic images that pop out of a cinema screen here. They are not related to these images in Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. All that stuff is just done to make the shots look pleasing to the eye. There's no meaning to it. Number 6. The multiple mirror reflections of cloned Monica at the end of the movie do not imply anything. They don't imply that an endless sequence of throwaway Monica clones could be created on a daily basis to keep David happy for as long as he wants. It just doesn't even come close to implying that. Number 7. Teddy toy being given to David as a sort of something for him to own. This is not implying hierarchies of slave ownership in which David himself is an owner of a robot underling. Teddy seen sewing himself back up at the end of the movie does not imply that David has mistreated him. And Teddy being abandoned in the final shots of the movie by his owner, the robot boy David, this does not imply that David is abandoning Teddy as was done to him by his owner. No, that kind of interpretation is way too highbrow. No, movies aren't that complex. Number 8. Mother reading a Freudian psychology book in the toilet of all places carries no meaning. What's this book called? Freud's Women? As Freud said, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and the rest of the time it's either a turd or a dildo. Number 9. The real boy, Martin, having robotic leg supports here, is nothing to do with humans in the story having robotic traits. Nor does the neon-lit costumes of the flesh-fair humans who hunt down mecha robots, nor does the metallic costume of the singer at the flesh fair. The movie clearly separates humans and their robots. It does not portray parallels between the two. Number 10. The buildings of Rouge City being shaped like the bodies of naked women in sexually available and submissive positions doesn't say anything about the mentality of the people in this city or the people who run it. It does not imply mass prostitution or sex slavery. Number 11. When the cars drive into the mouths of sexually submissive women so that they can enter Rouge City, it's not a metaphor of endless instances of fellatio being given by the robot hookers in the city. Likewise, when the helicopter passes through a big set of pink lips as they leave the city, that's not a fellatio metaphor either. And the fact that the guys entering the city all say, "ah," as they enter doesn't prove the fellatio metaphor. It doesn't even support it. Nor does this set of lips being part of the word wow. That doesn't add anything to such a ridiculous interpretation. It's just total nonsense. Number 12, still on the subject of helicopters, David playing with a toy helicopter at the end of the movie during his dream. His meeting with the super advanced mecha. This toy prop has nothing to do with the helicopter that David flew in earlier, even though David speaks of his Gigolo Joe robot friend at this point, the guy who was flying the helicopter.
Hey Joe, what do you know?
Number 13. When David allows himself to fall off a building in what seems to be an attempted suicide, the reflection of David appearing to fall from Joe's eye does not represent a tear. Sure, it says in the published AI concept art book that it represents a tear, but they just made that up to sell the book, pretending the film is all deep and meaningful. Number 14. The name of the flesh and blood human, Monica, may sound similar to the word mecha, which is what robots are called in this film, but that is totally accidental. Number 15. At this point in the story, we see that New York has been flooded due to global warming. The sea level has risen by hundreds of feet. However, it makes no sense that when we see that global warming has swung the other way into an ice age at the end of the movie, the sea level has risen a great deal higher again. Surely an ice age would cause the sea levels to massively drop, being that the ice caps of Earth would freeze up first. Now this massive plot hole isn't a hint that the frozen New York City is some sort of metaphor of something that has nothing to do with global temperature changes. Kubrick simply hadn't done his research properly when he was developing the story, and his many collaborators who worked on AI with him and who worked with Spielberg when the film was being shot, they hadn't noticed the plot hole either. Number 16. This particular tree here, it doesn't mean anything, nor does the colour of David's jacket or the pattern of the blanket that they put on the floor. I know it's really hard to believe, but these details really, really don't mean a damn thing. I'm not lying to you. Number 17. These moon balloons initially passing for the real moon doesn't mean anything. Here, the countdown and blast off of a robot through a hoop of fire with a moon in the background. This isn't saying anything about the Van Allen belt that would burn astronauts alive on their way to the moon, as has been very often cited by moon landing conspiracy theorists who say the whole thing was faked. That is, of course, conspiracy theory. Remember when Rob Ager debunked the idea that The Shining is about the moon landings? Well, take a leaf out of his book here. This is not a metaphor of the moon landing and the Van Allen belt. Number 18. The strange way in which this New York building has toppled and embedded in another one doesn't mean anything, even though it occupies 30 seconds of the film's runtime. The fact that the building gave way several floors above sea level doesn't mean a thing either. And I certainly don't think it's related to the various weirdly shaped buildings shaped like women's bodies bending over and stuff that was present in Rouge City. I don't think it's got any connection to that either. Though it could have been a warning about 9/11. Number 19. The teddy bear being switched on with a finger probe up his backside doesn't mean anything, and it bears no relation to this scene in The Shining. Number 20. This glass on the dinner table reflecting sunlight from outside. It doesn't mean jack shit. They're having dinner, so it's only natural to the situation that there would be a drinking glass on the table, although I do concede it might symbolise the empty relationship between these two characters. Number 21. When David falls into the ocean and a school of fish act like a magic carpet, transforming David to where he will see the Blue Fairy statue, the magic fish are not a clue that this part of the film is actually a fantasy illusion or a robotic dream sequence. The filmmakers just used the fish as a convenient device to move David toward the Blue Fairy statue. And they counted on us not noticing how ridiculous it is in terms of the plot. Number 22, the Cybertronic statue does not represent a cock and balls. It's not a phallic symbol. Number 23, the poster of the movie isn't showing a person stepping outside of a pyramid scheme hierarchy structure box to become a real person instead of a manufactured clone. And this poster does not relate to real people in the audience acting like programmed robots on account of their academic and social conditioning, and it's definitely not implying that they have a choice to step outside that box and think for themselves. No, the film isn't saying anything like that. It's just a movie. I tell you, you got to watch out for these film analysts. They can be quite clever. They can get to you with some really highbrow sounding stuff, but, no, don't fall for it, whatever you do. And number 24. Well, I know I said there would be 23 details in this list, but I lied. So here's a last one to bury all the ridiculous theories about this movie once and for all. The fact that Kubrick spent decades developing the AI film project with multiple collaborators, even handing over extensive concept art storyboards for Steven Spielberg to direct the film, this does not mean that the film is richly layered with multiple overlapping themes and subtext that go way beyond the surface story, the story that's explained to us in the film's narration. And it doesn't mean that the film is jam-packed from start to finish with symbolic details that aren't stated in the film's dialogue. It simply doesn't mean any of that. Kubrick was just incredibly slow at developing movies that have no more meaning than any other movies that you see. So, you've been listening to Bogria, and in the next episode I'll talk about how David Cronenberg's The Fly isn't a metaphor for the flu. Don't bother visiting Rob Eger's website to see hundreds of videos and articles on the deeper aspects of classic movies. I've put the link in the video description below anyway, but really don't go and visit it. I mean, the guy's done a 147-page PDF article just on the subject of the movie AI. And he's done a load of videos to go with it. It's just, what a waste of time. Just stick with my videos instead because you'll learn a lot more about nothing.